Let's tackle subtracting mixed numbers. It's very much like adding mixed numbers, but in certain instances, we do have to take it a little bit further. So let's take a look at a problem. Suppose Tamara bought 2 3/4 pounds of potatoes. She used 1.5 pounds for dinner and she gave the rest to her friend. And we want to know how many pounds did she give to her friend. Okay, so obviously, if we go by the language of the problem and we imagine ourselves in Tamara's place, we know that we're going to have to subtract. So she's starting off with 2 3/4 pounds of potatoes, and we are giving away or subtracting 1.5 pounds. Now, if you remember, in addition, we're going to treat this as two separate problems, but there's a difference. In this case, instead of adding our whole numbers first, we're not going to subtract our whole numbers first. First, we're going to subtract our fractions. So, what do we have to do? It's kind of easy, but we'll go through it. We have to find a common denominator for fourths and halves. And if I do my common multiples, I have 2, 4, and then obviously 4 is the least common denominator. So fourths it is. And 3/4 is just equal to 3/4. I don't have to do anything to that. However, I do have to change a half to fourths, and we should know that a half is 2/4 because of the rule that any fraction where the numerator is half of the denominator, that fraction is equal to a half. But let's say we forget that. We're going to multiply 2 by 2 to get 4, and then we have to multiply 1 times 2 to get 2. Well, the subtraction here is simple. We're going to keep the same denominator, and we're going to subtract 3 minus 2, which will give us 1. And then we are going to subtract the whole number side. 2 minus 1 is 1. And so she gave 1 1/4 pounds to her friends. Okay, nothing especially difficult there. It's just like subtracting whole numbers. And then we have another problem subtracting fractions. But sometimes we're faced with something that's a little bit trickier. Let's say the problem were slightly changed. Let's say Tamara bought 2.5 pounds of potatoes. Okay. And she used 1 3/4 pounds for dinner. Same problem, we just changed the amounts a little bit. So it should be the same process, right? Well, I don't know, let's see. We're going to subtract 2.5 minus 1 3/4. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to divide it into whole number side and fraction side. So let's see what we have. 3/4 is going to be 3/4. And we know that 1/2 is going to be 2/4. Okay, now do you see that we have a problem here? And the problem is that we cannot take 3/4 away from 2/4. You might have learned, and you should have learned, that anytime a fraction's numerator and denominator are the same, let's say 4/4, 8/8, 50/50, Whenever numerator and denominator are the same, the fraction is equal to 1. That is important for many, many purposes. And this is one of them. Because since we can't take 3/4 away from 2/4, we are going to have to exchange one whole. So that's going to leave us with 1. And we are going to change that into fourths. And how many fourths are in that one whole? 4/4. So what we did was we took one whole, changed it to 4/4, and put it over to the fraction side. So now we're going to do 2 plus 4 is 6. So we have 6/4. And we're going to subtract 3/4. And we get 3/4. And you see 1 minus 1 on the whole number side is 0. So in this case, she gave her friend 3/4 of a pound. And that is how we do our subtraction of mixed numbers with exchanging whole numbers for fractions.